Well, hello.
Hello, 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 hello.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Oh, y'all don't sound happy. I mean, it's Friday, but you definitely don't sound happy. So let's do that again. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
That's better. That's better. Look, I will tell you why I'm so excited. So let me tell you, I don't know what it is about Charles and I, but he sent his karma to me. So me and my wife both took COVID. I took my COVID test before she did. She got her results back, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, I, I need y'all to, I need to come on back now. I need
Yeah.
to like, and I'm like, how you take it a day later? Like, I don't get that. So I finally got mine back. I was so frustrated. I was just sitting there. I fell asleep with my phone in my hand like this, and then I woke up, and it was probably close to midnight, and it was there. And I text Charles and everybody like, hey, I'm negative. But here's the thing. Omicron, we all are gonna have to get tested regularly and have regular testing, but Omicron has such an impact that it touches you in so many different ways. Like you get calls from people like, "Hey, I just want to let you know I tested positive. I know we were close. You probably should go get tested."
Yeah.
That started. I almost just like I'm just gonna stay at the house. It's
It's rough sledding. It's rough sledding. Just the anxiety of the situation. Uh, it brings into perspective a whole range of emotions.
that it
Yes.
does.
Because
That
I
it
can
does.
imagine, I can imagine what you went through. Because I went through it. I check my phone. I know a couple hundred times. It's every few seconds, just like refresh, refresh, refresh. And I fell asleep with my phone just like that. I mean, because I'm like, I need to know.
I need to know something. I mean, either way, I just need to know, right?
Yeah, just tell me so I can get on with it.
Very true. But I just wanted to start off the show by first just reminding everybody one again to definitely pay attention to our page beginning of February because we'll start talking about the credit segment and our credit program. So we definitely want to help people improve their credit, especially Black people. It's very important. So that's one thing I wanted everybody to just keep aware. Another thing that I wanted to start off was some really good news, and I know you guys love football, so I wanted to implement this. Antonio Doyle Jr., who was the number 5 in the country, he's an inside linebacker in the nation for the class of 2022, is transferring from Texas A&M. So I thought that was pretty big.
2020.
Yes, yes, but he is transferring from a big time school. I feel like it's definitely going to be. We've been getting some really good improvements. I feel like, and a lot of recruits as well. It's like always happen. Something always is going on within our athletic department, especially our football program as well. So I don't know. I'm a little excited. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're getting a little bit of an echo from somebody. I'm not sure how that's working out, but yes, you can expect big things consistently. Uh, One thing that Jackson State has shown, uh, even though we aren't a Power Five school, our social media department understands how to connect with the fan base all across the country, and they've created energy around Jackson State football, and so they are consistently driving the message. And I don't know if you saw this or not, Kennedy, but we have a new member of the marketing department that's been on a rampage, been on a tear lately, and that's the J Hat.
DJ Hat.
On Twitter, there's a special account set up just for the J Hat. And it
What?
basically drives fear and angst into Power Five school fan bases. Whenever they see that J Hat come out, they know Jackson State is about to get a new player that they thought they were getting.
Lord, Jackson State and Jackson overall definitely the I love for sure. But also what I want to get into. So you guys were talking about COVID and everything, and I know, like y'all said earlier, even though it's called Omicron, whatever. I'll call it Omarion because at the end of the day, this is just a lot going on. We got Omarion, then we got flu.
Omicron, Kennedy, Omicron.
We got flu runner or whatever. It's another one. At this point, you just gotta stay masked up. And like another thing, like you're just saying, Mr. Peters, about just trying to be aware. We recently just got a message saying that we will be going back to in-person classes on Monday. So, it's mixed emotions from that. I personally just feel like at this point we can only protect ourselves because nothing is going to happen. But at the same time, I do also hear other people's concerns, but we'll see about that. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
Um,
we have to take it upon ourselves to be very, very conscious of what we do leading up to going into the class. I think I told each one of you to monitor and police yourselves, considering you all think y'all want me to come to class on Monday. Because if it's not feeling right, then we will have to do something else.
Mr. Peters, he said that, but he said it in a different tone this morning. I just want you to know that it wasn't as nice as he tried to say it right now, Mr. Peters.
I can only imagine the tone he said it in.
Best believe, yes. But I definitely personally I really do agree. I also hopefully the university, but not only that, just schools across the nation, schools are providing teachers with cleaning supplies because it's not besides universities, teachers we all know don't make the most. And so it's really important that hopefully schools are providing that. So we'll see in the future, but I just hopefully we can start I guess learning to live with COVID. I feel like we are trying to find a cure, but as long as we're learning to live with it, I think that's just the main thing that we got to focus on now. But also one of the things I want to talk about was when you should take a PCR test and a rapid antigen test. So a lot of people should know because you could still be walking around spreading this disease, and we're trying to contain it, everybody. So you should take a PCR test when you're trying to figure out initially if you are negative or positive because it's actually a more accurate test and it was able to really test out either small amounts of COVID. You should take a rapid test though when you've already done with your quarantine, preferably 14 days. Others will argue 5, but preferably 14 days. That's when you start to take a rapid test after your quarantine to actually test at that moment are you negative or positive. If you take a PCR, it's still going to say that you're positive because it's still detecting small amounts, even 3 or 4 weeks afterwards. So I wanted to say that. Hopefully, I eased some of your worries, Mr. Peters. I know you said you was a little worried.
And you know
Well,
what? It's gonna. I'm gonna do everything I can to protect myself, but the reality of it is, it, it is what it is. We've got to adjust to it, live with it, do what we can, and make sure we are vaccinated and we do our part at least. Now, I'm still gonna be holding my phone up, nervously anticipating those results because I'm sure I'll be tested often. Because anytime, like Charles and I, or anybody that has school age children, let's just face it, every day is an adventure.
no doubt about that. Now, every day, because pre-COVID, kids are germ magnets.
Right,
So now it's like, woo, okay.
Yeah.
right.
And Mr. Peters, I don't know, but like, has your school like, are you teaching online classes, or did they push the date back a little bit as well?
No, they're doing in-person classes, but fortunately for me this semester, I drew all online classes.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
Lucky
good for
you.
me. I did have one, but it didn't make, and so thank goodness. Then a lot of kids, students sign up for the in-person class. They signed up for the online classes, and I wasn't mad about
I know you weren't.
it.
That is true. And now another thing, since we're talking about schools, this recently passed today. I don't know if you heard about it, Dr. Irvin, but Mississippi just passed a law banning the teachings of critical race theory. And I thought that was something a little shocking. Not surprised.
I don't know why you thought that was shocking. I mean,
I guess it's only because hmm, you will hope that society wouldn't try to sanitize history because it is leads up to where we are now. But then at the same time, I guess because we were getting so much pushback and people were trying to fight that bill. I just really thought that this would be the one time that we would prevail. So I don't know. I always try to look at the positive, even though I see your face. How do you feel, Dr. Irvin?
Well,
Yeah.
Kennedy, one key word you said in there is history. History has been whitewashed over many, many centuries. You do know that the term "to the victor goes the spoils" ties into that, meaning that who has won the majority writes the history. And so, if you want to sanitize, weaponize, and basically blank out parts of history, then that's not honest brokering. But you should know the textbooks that you learned out of, the textbooks that Leslie and I learned out of, to a certain extent, it's just the quiet part being said out loud because those textbooks are not complete.
True.
Some of them still talk about Columbus and what he did when we know better.
Yeah. You mean Columbus and the three ships?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's not a new concept, Kennedy. It's just a loud concept with social media and 24/7 news cycles. Um, and the rationale behind it, of course, as you pointed out, is totally wrong. You should be able to teach for enlightenment, for uh, a complete canvas of information. It shouldn't be weaponized that it's black versus white or white versus black. The history is the history, good or bad. So, what
Very
does
true.
that say about the people who want to keep that information out?
Very true. They want to try to sanitize it.
I'm reminded I don't know how much you know about this, and this is kind of jumping to a different subject, just
Mm,
a little bit. But in Tulsa, Black Wall Street,
mhm.
reparations. Uh, the mayor says no. But did you know that the mayor is like fifth or sixth generation uh, politician, and his family benefited directly from slavery and from the Tulsa massacre? Is he the right person to make that? So I mean, it's the same.
It's
It's
biased.
it's the same type of situation.
But I think we have to be careful there because if we look, this goes back to something that I said probably a couple of years ago, that when we look at the power structure of America, it systemically it hasn't changed. And that power structure, if you look down the history line of that power structure, it's all embedded and has ties to slave owners and the origination of slavery. So now, does that mean that translated later that a person has to think that way and act that way? No, but it does mean that their ties are still there. And so now we have to look at your actions. And if your actions are still indicative of the thought process that was there many, many years ago, then it has transcended generations, and you're continuing to spread that same message of hate. And that we just can't accept.
No doubt. I mean, I hear you saying we have to be careful, but you're saying the same thing that we're pointing out.
Well,
It's
I'm
just
saying, let me say this, Charles. Be careful not to forget or not to omit, because there's this group of what I call conservative blacks that will say, well, we shouldn't really cause a stir about this or cause a stir about that. And I said we have to be careful with that rhetoric. We have to call a spade a spade. We have to.
oh yeah. I mean
People died because they didn't have the opportunity to call it. We have to call a spade a spade. And there's that old saying that if you don't stand for anything, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. So we're at that point now. And ironically, I thought it was interesting that that comes from the Tulsa mayor, which is a city that we're coming up on February that is about to get inundated with stories about the Tulsa massacre, about what has happened. And of all cities, you really, as mayor of Tulsa, you really should have a different.
Why? Why should he have a different viewpoint when, as you just said, it's systemic?
Well, but this is because this is the same mayor that would say we are progressive and we don't have those views on one hand, but then
What
his
did you
actions
just say, Liz? What did you just say?
contradict.
What are his actions? I can
Right.
tell you it's raining outside, but you can go and see the activity of the sun radiating down.
True.
Very true.
So he's not lining up. He's not lining up with the rhetoric. I mean, talk is cheap. I mean, another concrete example of this is Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin standing on the floor of the Senate arguing that to change the filibuster is wrong when they just changed it to put in Supreme Court justices, when they just changed it to give tax breaks to the rich. They've changed it 161 times. Did you know that?
No.
No, I
They,
never.
they've made 161 exceptions to the filibuster rule to get things done that they wanted to get done
Throughout history or like just recently?
over time.
Wow, over time.
161 times.
Yeah. So to sit there and tell us while we know, I mean, I guess they think we won't look it up to tell us that it hasn't been done and it will cause chaos in the Senate. Well, if you've done it one time, okay, then let's see. But you've done it 161 times for various things.
And I'm kind of glad you talked about that because I've said it before, and that's the reason why I keep on bringing topics like this because I need the audience to understand the importance of midterm elections. So, recently, a Black New York Democratic State Representative Jamal Bowman was arrested Thursday during a voting rights protest at the U.S. Capitol. And so his office made a statement basically says today Congressman Jamal Bowman joined a voting rights nonviolent direct action at the North Barricade of the U.S. Capitol building and was arrested by the U.S. Capitol Police. And I think it's side note, I do think it's a little hysterical how like social media has taken such a turn that like now it's the US Capitol Police made a statement on Twitter. But they made a tweet basically saying demonstrators started blocking one side of the North Barricade outside the US Capitol. And basically, officers started to start making arrests. That after they gave protesters three warnings, that after that they arrested over 2 dozen people. But the demonstrators came hours after Democrats failed to change Senate rules in order to pass voting rights legislation ahead of the 2022 midterm elections. And Bowman is just among of several other African American Democratic lawmakers who have been arrested. So,
So this is a part of history again. Uh, in the movement, you had numerous leaders arrested over the years, over the decades, during nonviolent protests. Uh, the arrest in and of itself is a part of the protest.
hmm.
I shall not be moved. So when you put that up against what we're facing and what we're asking for in John Lewis, even in the modified bill that they were arguing over the other night. I mean, 2007 Kennedy,
Mm.
you had more rights to the ballot box than you do right now in 2022.
Oh,
When
wow.
Shelby v. Holder came down, which was a case that challenged the Department of Justice's right under Eric Holder to exercise the voting right measures of pre-clearance, meaning that for those states that had a history, there's that word again, of racist or defective voting models in that they penalize Black and brown people, those states had to submit to the Department of Justice their plans for any changes prior to making those changes. and then the Department of Justice could weigh in, challenge them in federal court, whatever needed to be done to make sure that those changes were not unconstitutional. Well, the Roberts Court struck down and stripped out pre-clearance, which causes the cascade effect that we see now with all this bad gerrymandering of
Mhm.
lines, packing districts, breaking districts up, uh, and then back to the water issue. I mean, you go from redistricting to restricting free water for people who've been in line for a long time, and so this voting rights bill that we're asking for is simply asking to restore voting rights and make it of such importance that everybody can have a right to vote. That you not take up uh, the ballot boxes uh, for drop off ballots in Texas. That you not make it restrictive. If you got to drive over 100 miles to drop off a ballot, you
That
might not.
doesn't make
That
it,
doesn't make good sense.
gas prices how they are now. That doesn't
Yeah,
even make people want to go out.
yeah. I mean, so you know, let's not be let's not be fooled by what's happening. Um, you know, again, as Leslie said, you can talk and talk until you blue in the face, but show me what you did. And what I see is Senator Manchin, Senator Sinema are aiding the Republicans in their cause because when the Republicans needed to change this to get those Supreme Court justices on the court, they stood together. Now we have two Democrats in name that are blocking voting rights.
And they've always been because I've done research on them before and plenty of bills, especially in my past internship, trying to see if we could sway their votes. One thing is hard to see is those two both have always been unpredictable, whether they're Democrats or not. And that's what's so crazy to me, I guess, about law. Like I understand you don't have to always join a political party, but if you have established that you join a political party, you would think, like you said just a second ago, Republicans stand together. With them, it's always been well, I don't know what they're going to do today. Are they going to vote with us or not? It's just,
Yeah,
and about voter rights, it's like, wow, it's gone to this.
yeah. And then the other thing you need to know from a historical standpoint is in the past, votes dealing with voter rights were usually like 97-3 or 98-2 or 100-0, meaning that all 100 senators felt like voting rights were important enough for all Americans to have equal access. Well, once they started weaponizing the courts and stacking the courts with Republican judges and realizing that they could weaponize voting for suppression purposes, they started changing their vote. And so now it's come down to Democrats trying to protect the big D democratic model of what we're supposed to represent as America. We're getting awfully close to losing those democratic ideals, not the party, the bigger concept of democracy and freedom.
No, you mean what our forefathers thought and what they intended when they sat and wrote the
Exactly.
original document that really set up the democracy as we know it and
That's
that
right.
we call. And look, even I mean that's Senator Manchin still acting this way even after Nick Saban, who's a West Virginia native, for the first time got involved and signed his name on a petition urging him to please vote for voter rights. So it's interesting. I think if you're watching this and you're a minority, forget minority, if you're watching this and you're a person in favor of democracy, this should scare you even more now as we go into midterm elections. Because if you look at the decisions that are being made and the thought process that's happening, it's really scary if I'm just a fan of democracy. Because what's happening is this divide that we were trying to bring together after the election, this divide is getting more pronounced day by day. It's getting more divided day by day. And now instead of coming together, Everybody's locking in their trenches, and this division is scary. And so I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but I think we have to do something, particularly as minorities, to make sure we're united and that we're doing the things we need to do to protect democracy. Because we don't always do our part as a whole, holistically, in participating in the voting process in midterm elections.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I mean, you need to be mindful of this. When you say that divide, it's more than just a divide. Think about this. The Republicans voted in their interest.
Yeah,
48 of the Democrats voted in what would be the country's interest. If you want free and fair elections that are driven by one person, one vote, then you vote with the Democrats because that's what the bill provided, a national holiday for vote day,
right.
uh, easier access to registration, restoration of felon rights. Um, and then you look at that against the backdrop of what's happening in the states. There are laws on the book right now in 2022 that say if we think there is fraud in the election results, then we can have somebody else that's not elected. Whereas the Attorney General's office and the Secretary of State's office usually handle those matters, particularly the Secretary of State handles those challenges and gets recounts and that type of thing. Now they've created these commissions that could say, oh, well, that election wasn't right, so we're going to give it to the other person.
Loopholes in my eyes. The more and more I start, like you said earlier, packing the course, gerrymandering, stuff like that. I think, because I'm a junior now, so I started getting more into my coursework. I just started understanding and realizing how sometimes politics create ways to make legal loopholes in order to go or sway towards what you're trying to push for, whatever type of bill or anything that you're trying to push for. And that's what it sounded like and what I'm visualizing in my eyes.
Yeah, I'll give you a concrete example. There is a case in federal court right now in Ohio um, that's being brought by the democracy docket, challenging uh, the way the district lines were drawn, right?
Hmm.
Meaning they tried to do some crazy stuff with the squiggly line to make it more advantageous for one party over another. They can bring that lawsuit and have a high hope of winning because the voters in Ohio voted on that measure. Now it's part of law in Ohio.
Wow.
That's all you're asking for is the ability to be able to bring proper challenges. If the law stands the way it is, not every state has that. That's unique to Ohio right now. The southern states are going in a very restrictive, backwards manner to try and hold on to power. And so, you need regulation. Congress is supposed to be the place that you go to get this type of protection.
True indeed. True indeed. And Kennedy, I while we're talking about this, I don't know if you have it. If not, I'll try to find it. I wanted to remind our audience, if you haven't already, to order your free at-home
Yes,
COVID test
you beat me to it.
uh, from the government, and
I was
make
in
sure
with
you
that.
do that. If you have it, let me know.
I'm
If
about
I
to
need
put
to try to
the
find it, I'll find it.
I'm about to put it in the chat. You beat me to it. But yes, I was gonna put that in.
And while you do that, I just wanted to give a short intermission break because we've been heavy, heavy, heavy. But Charles mentioned something when we started the show about something that's getting a lot of attention. So I just wanted to bring it up and give this person its identity. DJ had Twitter account. And I just want to bring a highlight to this one line that's causing all the problems. And it simply says, and this is from DJ Hat, literally the hat. It's all good until you see me on the table. That statement right there is driving some Power Five fans, particularly Miami and Florida State fans, crazy.
Add
Right about
Texas
that.
A&M to the list.
And
Yep.
Texas A&M is down the
Add
list.
Texas A&M to the list.
And one of them, if you just go there and follow it, one of them even said, "Look, man, I was fine, but you know, if the hat is on the table, they're gonna pick it. So I don't want to see the hat." And the other guy said, "No, I mean, I want to see the hat because at least then I know it's over because they might pull it out their bag."
Which has
Uh,
happened a couple times.
It was one out the bag. I think it was one thrown to him while he was
That's
up.
right.
Then the other guy, he
yeah,
said, "Put it on me." He was
Yeah.
using that
Yeah.
damn
I
clip.
mean, I
So
mean,
kudos to the marketing department at Jackson State because that has garnered national attention and spread like wildfire. Hat sales are going through the roof, and the rhetoric around the hat is hilarious.
listen,
Yeah,
I went to order me several more J hats because I want one in black, I want one in every, and I can't find them. It's
and that
crazy.
guess what? When I saw him in Texas, guess what hat he was wearing?
Yeah,
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 a J hat.
A
So
J hat.
Kennedy, if you see some, just grab me, and I want the good one. You
You
know,
sound just like my dad. Have you been in the bookstore yet? I haven't even
yeah.
stepped foot in the
And you
student
grab
section.
them, and I'll send you the money right away.
Yes, sir. I definitely will. It's crazy though. I will say the marketing team. I don't know if you guys are really on Twitter, Instagram that much, but like every week, we would have a opponent. It was just like the flyers that they'll make. I was like, man, like this is some crazy stuff. Like you can tell the improvement. You know what I'm saying? And how we've been trying to catch people's eyes, whether our clothing, whether our brand, marketing. So shout out to them for that too. JSU is full of many talents. I think people try to sleep on us, but that's one thing we are full of.
yeah.
Well, there's no
And
doubt.
shout out to President Hudson again because I just saw on Twitter that if a student has a balance, they can go into their Pause account and figure out and fill out the Tiger assistance paperwork and possibly get up to $1,000. So shout out to them. They're trying to do everything they can to assist during COVID. And now it's up on the students to go into their accounts and fill out that paperwork and see if you can get that extra grand. That's some,
And you know what? That's what D is all about. It's going the extra mile in everything we do. And when I say D, even collectively, not just D Jackson State, but a challenge to DHBCU Nation. This is a time where we all have to pull together. Which is a perfect segue into something else you brought, Kennedy, as we go back into the heaviness of the vote and voters' rights. What concerns you from your lens, which is a different lens than mine? What concerns you most about the midterm elections coming up,
Um,
particularly within the African American race and your demographic?
if I'm being honest with you, the one thing that I'm really concerned of is, like Dr. Irvin said, it's not going to be a democracy. Like that's really what I'm concerned of, especially now that like I'm a young adult now. I think I'm really, really concerned about just the democracy and it's not being fair. And at this point, it's going to turn into more of a dictatorship, unfairness, a lot of rights being stripped away from us. And I guess that's the one thing that I'm truly concerned about. It's just that. And uh, how can I say this as well? Limiting our rights as minorities because we already got the cards stacked against us already. So, like a prime example, what Dr. Avery just said, if I have to travel 100 miles to drop off a ballot, mind you, some of us don't even have the cars, let alone the ability to get a car, let alone the ability to even pay for gas as gas prices as they are. Then on top of that, majority of us can't even vote because we either convicted felons or we were wrongfully convicted, but you cannot vote, so your right is stripped away from you. So at that time, granted, yes, and we're also overpopulating prisons because we are usually wrongfully convicted, or it takes a long time for our trial dates to be set. It's a lot of factors that go into how, at that point in time, once all the factors are put into play and they're implemented, it's almost as if I hate to be that person, but the majority has the already the upper hand as is before even going to the ballot box. And that's just
So
the one thing I'm concerned about right there. It's just like I don't. How can you stop this? It's almost like stuff is going on and you can't. It's watching stuff that it's like your hands are you're frozen and you can't do nothing about it almost. If I'm being honest with you.
so here's what I will tell you, Kennedy. We are not quite at that point yet. We're very close to what you're saying.
Mhm.
But a lot of this is smoke and mirrors because if we get out there and organize, now you can't out organize outright voter suppression with some of these laws, but
Mhm.
you can come pretty doggone close by doing what you got to do with the vote. Now, that doesn't excuse them from doing their duty as elected officials to protect the vote, but we see what's happening, so we're gonna have to vote them out. Incidentally, Manchin said he's not concerned about a primary challenge. He welcomes it. Well, we need to put that to the test.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, Charles. What are your thoughts on Stacey Abrams' chances in Georgia in the gubernatorial election?
Well,
The governor.
I would say this: when you look at the numbers, and Kennedy can tell you this because she has sat in my class and she knows how to break down these numbers and she knows where to look for these numbers. But if you look at the number of people that move to the greater Atlanta metro area every week, about 1,500 people, uh, 90% of those people are
Are black.
black, and most of them are voting along the same lines as what Stacey Abrams has to offer. So the only way that you can hope to beat her is by suppressing the vote.
So let me ask you this, because this is a question we have to ask: Is the election in Georgia for governor simply by popular vote, or is it by some other method?
It's popular vote.
Okay, so
Now,
that
if
means
you,
that's why then there's so much attention on Atlanta because that's the most populous place
yeah,
in Georgia. Okay,
yeah, because you want to limit those high traffic areas because that's a prime concrete example of what I've been talking about the numbers because Atlanta is not a purple state; it's a blue state by population. Georgia,
Mm.
because of the city of Atlanta.
right.
Mm. Yeah, it is actually not. Yeah. So okay, so if I'm not mistaken, and I feel like I might have to do some more research, but when I was the last time I was paying attention to when it was election, I thought the city of Dallas was a blue state. So how do you stop for Texas as a whole? Where do you think is some ways for us as Texas, Dr. Irvin, we can turn the state into a blue state? Because when it was election time, we were actually very close to going blue, but somehow, some way, we still stuck to red.
Well, here's what I would say about that. Because of the size of Texas
Right,
physically,
right.
Mm.
um, I looked at all the numbers across what is 254 counties in Texas.
Yeah, I
Um,
believe it.
and so you have high concentrations of population in Austin, in Houston, in San Antonio, in Dallas. Um, and so then you get into land masses.
Hmm.
And in between that, the missing link to that, if you pull the right number of votes from Houston, if you pull the right number of votes from San Antonio, Austin, and Dallas, that puts you in a puncher's chance. But notice what I left off of the list, and
El Paso.
this is where the problem came in for a couple of reasons. One, the Democrats were slow to understand that sabotage was going on with the Hispanic population as far as uh, the type of advertisements that were going on, whether it was mailers, radio, TV, or just walking the block, because Trump had figured out how to speak a language of fear um, about socialism.
Mhm.
Yeah, you are.
Two, two, you had COVID raging out of control in the Rio Grande Valley, and then three, um, that caused the vote to not show up in the mass numbers that you needed to connect the dots to the rest of the high population areas in Texas. So what does that mean? they were able to offset the Rio Grande because the boat didn't come out at the same level. It came out in Houston and Dallas and Austin.
And that was your missing link. It's Laredo, Mission, Brownsville,
Mm,
Mercedes, McAllen,
that makes sense.
all that down to Lubbock, all that
Yeah, I love
corridor.
it for sure.
Yeah.
Because Lubbock wouldn't be
We,
Lubbock without. Yeah,
we
it
did
makes
not
sense.
get the votes from
I,
that
w-
area.
I was just really trying to figure out because I was like, we are so close. Because I was doing something at the time, but I would check like every hour. I was like, maybe we really are going to go blue, and it just
It was
it,
that area. I mean, if you look at it, all of so Dallas, Harris County, which is Houston, was in Dallas County, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Austin, all went Democratic, all went blue. But we know that the rural areas are going to go red. They are. They're not as populated, but the problem is the Rio Grande Valley is heavily populated.
mm,
It's even more populated than like Dallas and Houston as far as the number of people in the area of space.
mm,
But we didn't get their votes out. And the pandemic had a lot to do with that. They were getting ravaged by corona at an even higher rate than blacks were. And because for simple fact, a lot of them didn't have health care. So when you look at what was happening down there in those areas, they don't have the same medical facilities, they don't have the same resources. And the reality is they just didn't we didn't turn out to vote down there. And that cost the election.
okay. Thank you. You both definitely have informed me on something because I was trying to figure out the missing link, and I guess the Rio Grande Valley that does make sense.
Have you ever been to South Padre Island, Kennedy?
Yes, I did go to South Padre. Yes, my senior year. Yeah, I did for spring
Okay.
break.
So when you went to South Padre Island, just for instance, what did you see demographically? Did you see a lot of people that look like you and I? What did you see? All right. So that's the Rio Grande Valley. But what I'm saying, that's still we the in order for Texas to go blue,
Mm-hmm.
blue has to carry that area of Texas.
Okay.
And if we don't, we can't. Whoever carries that area of Texas going win.
Okay.
It's
It
just
makes sense.
traditionally shown.
Okay. And the last thing I really wanted to close out with the show. So I've been keeping up with this as well. One thing I always like to implement in the show is also local Jackson news. So if you've been paying attention to a lot of our shows, the past few weeks, I've mentioned how the U.S. Attorney, FBI, and everything wanted to come and work with the Jackson Police to stop crime. Also, they gave out a $500,000 grant to Jackson Police to try to increase employment, but not only raises and whatnot. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around this, Dr. Irvin, but can you so basically let me first to the topic. um so Hines County Sheriff Supervisor, which is now Tyree Jones, he explained why it's crucial to avoid federal takeover for the detention center, which is in the Hines County Detention Center. My thing is, so why is it so crucial? Because they were even with me paying attention to it at the debate, they kept on bringing it up, but I guess I just couldn't understand it. But what's the importance of, I guess, not having a federal takeover, but the importance of having a well-functioning detention center, really, besides it of COVID and things of that nature? But what's the reason why it's so run down? I guess, and why is it such an issue in Jackson? Like it's always, ever since this when I came back this fall, it's been a really, really big push. I've seen it a lot in news, and I just never understood though.
Ooh, that's a lot to unpack, Kennedy. I'm gonna give it a shot though. Uh, one, um, the ground that the facility was built on was a landfill, and they didn't prepare the land properly, and so it's caused internal problems with locks and other parts of the building, flooding and leaking and that type thing. So, from a sanitary standpoint, from a safety standpoint, if you have locks that don't work, that causes problems.
Mm,
Um, Between other individuals who are housed there and potential safety concerns for the guards that are charged with making sure that those people are cared for. The other thing is if and put it in this context, and this is why I say it's a lot to unpack because we're not talking about a state-run uh, prison, which means that you've been convicted. Most of the people that are in the Hines County detention detention, they're being detained pretrial,
Mm,
and so they haven't been um, found by a jury of their peers or by plea or to be guilty, and so they have certain rights that should be in place under. And the reason why the government has taken an issue with the facility is because of health and safety of those individuals, because they have constitutional rights. They have to be cared for in a certain manner, as particularly Eighth Amendment rights against cruel and inhumane treatment, whether that be food, whether that be resources, clothing, uh, access to programs, and then the most important is safety, because you had some people die in that facility.
yeah. Last year was 6 alone. I wanted to add
Yeah.
that.
And so that's why you've drawn the attention of the Department of Justice. And so what he's
Oh,
saying is that it makes it hard for him to do his job, and some of the things that he may want to do as sheriff that would be progressive or, in the interest of education or training, things that may be helpful in the long run. He's got anytime he wants to implement any type of change, it has to go to Department of Justice and to the case monitors for them to approve it or deny it, and for them to provide a rationale. All of the funding, everything is under a microscope,
from now on. Okay.
right?
Because it
Until
passed
until that consent decree is lifted, it makes it very hard to progress on any agenda other than fixing the items that are on the list.
hold up. I'm gonna do you how you do Mr. Peters. Cause we in the audience. Can you
Mhm.
explain the consent decree for the audience, using big words. So we need to break it down.
That's a legal term, meaning that there's a piece of paper somewhere in a courthouse somewhere that says the federal government has oversight over the Hines County Detention Facility.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I got you, Mr. Peters.
Yeah. Uh, and
Great
so
job. Great job.
and so I mean that's a valid question though, because somebody may not understand what consent decree means. Um, and that decree says check with us before you do anything. And here are the major items that we want you to fix.
So since it's like that with you said the dissent decree, do you feel as though thank you, Miss Irvin. Do you feel as though ever since the city of Jackson, where it comes to just, I guess the department, I guess you could just include whether it's policing, lawmaking, and such. Do you feel like we are going to get to a point where it's going to be we have to check with the Department of Justice first, since we're all getting this, like us help from the U.S. the attorney and whatnot? Do you feel like we're going to turn to that point if crime continues to be worse?
That's a different issue.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that's a different issue from this standpoint. They've asked for collaboration with the U.S. Attorney's Office, uh, which is a double-edged sword, honestly, because some of the crimes that may be charged could open up a can of worms for potential defendants, uh, domestic violence, certain
Mm.
gun charges, different things. You could be in a world of hurt because they are involved, and if they choose to turn those federal, then that's an issue.
Yeah.
Mm. Understand- Understandable. Um, but that's basically all I really wanted to have for the show today. Really implement that for
Well,
sure.
you know what? I wanted good show today. Hopefully, this gets people really thinking about the midterms and the fact that we need to get out and encourage other people to get out. And if you got family members, one of the things I always do, I go around to people that I know don't have a card that I know, and I make sure I get them to the poll. Make sure I call them ahead of time. Make sure they register. Make sure they know where their polling place is. That type of thing. We're in a pandemic, but hey, you can remind. And so, what I did last year in the midst of the pandemic, I would schedule Ubers to pick them up and take them.
Hmm.
I wasn't taking them, but I would make sure they got taken. I would take you, Kennedy. I would take Charles, but I'm just saying. We didn't know as much as we knew. That was before the vaccination. But I will say this a couple of announcements. I wanted to remind all of our audience that if you wanted to check out some of Jackson State's latest recruits, they will be playing both Travis Hunter and Kevin Coleman will be playing in the Polynesian Bowl on this Saturday, tomorrow, at 6 or 6:30 p.m. on CBS, whatever your local CBS station. So that's on national TV. Um, that's two players in the top 10 coming to Jackson State. They will be playing on Saturday in Hawaii in the Polynesian Bowl, and on Monday they'll be at Jackson State uh, in class and working out.
Are you for real?
So yes, they're
They'll be they'll
they're
be
preparing.
early enrollees.
Oh, because they graduate. Okay, what
Yeah, they've already finished high school.
Yeah,
is that? What Shador did?
yeah,
Same
He
thing,
just couldn't play in that spring
right,
because
right?
of what, like he wasn't eligible basically.
Correct.
right.
Wow.
So there is no spring. They'll be able to play in the spring game though. So now, because now we're in a traditional setting where we have spring, so they will be. You will
Oh,
see them on the field in the spring game and playing, and so they'll be going through strength and conditioning. And then
wow.
also, in case you haven't heard, I want to remind everybody that February 2nd is National Signing Day. So it's going to be a big day for all the HBCUs, and particularly in the SWAC for sure. So make sure you look. If you're a big football fan, I'm not saying you want to take a day off, but you may want to take a day off to follow and keep up with all of that. But it's going to be a big day. I'm predicting this is going to be the biggest day ever since they started doing the star system and watching National Signing Day, and how many top 300 kids end up committing to an HBCU near you. So those are two things I wanted to remind people of. And then also, reminder again, the free COVID test. You can fill it out online to get your free COVID test from the government. Listen, you can only get one free set per household. I just got to tell you that, because look, I don't care if it's 10 people in the house and all 10 people fill it out, you're getting one. You're getting one set. So just know that. I'm telling you now. So I don't want you complaining, talking about they only send me one. You're getting one per household. So make sure you fill it out and request that. And in these times where we're going to be testing ourselves so regularly, to have that at home, to be able to do that quickly and not have to go through the excruciating pain that Charles and I have when you're sitting there waiting. It seems like forever.
Test yourself. Take your vitamins. Take your emergency. That's my daily morning routine. I always take my vitamins and my emergency. Just write down everything. Sanitize it, y'all. Be safe. And I also want to add to what Mr. Peters was saying about football. Just keep in mind, there's already some new NFL coaches that are head coaches as well, like Hugh Jackson for Grambling State. You already know Deion Sanders for Jackson State, and Tennessee State isn't in the SWAC, but
Eddie George, yeah.
so it's going to be a pretty big day, honestly.
Yeah, it'll be a big day. I heard through the street committee that the J Hat will be at the Polynesian Bowl.
I heard that too. And I heard that the J Hat went first class. I'm just saying. That's what I heard.
Yeah, I've heard I've heard that it
class.
may be spotted not once but twice on Saturday. So we shall see.
We shall see. We shall see. And I heard from a good source that we're not done yet in the top 300. That's all I'm gonna say. We're not done yet.
Yeah.
There's
And
more
just
to come.
and so just I know Kennedy kind of looked when you said that Travis and Kevin will be on campus starting Monday. Most of the people that we signed through the transfer portal, they're already on campus.
Yeah, I noticed it, but I just didn't know that. Like, I just didn't know they was going to be on campus soon. Like, it was just that.
Yeah. So you know how high school credits work. So they've
Yeah.
already completed everything they need to complete. So now they are, once you do that and fill out all your paperwork with the clearinghouse and get a clean bill of health, you can report to college.
So Kennedy, all I'm saying, you might be walking around campus and see them very soon.
Yeah, I actually probably will. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm sure they'll be out. I'm sure they'll be out Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, I think really just them, but also a few other athletes. Like one guy, he didn't know what a Chick-fil-A and library was, so I kind of had to tell him. I could tell he looked like he was really new. And in my mind, I was like, you kind of look like you're an athlete, but I don't want to just stereotype somebody. But he looked like he was very new to campus. So, but yeah, it's getting back. The For you guys, the Union is what it's called, but the Heritage Hall is back open as well.
Yeah, but you know what? I still like the vibe of the Union. It was special to us. It was
But
special.
okay, question.
Mhm.
I mean, I believe my father, but when y'all was in the calf, y'all didn't have a buffet option. Y'all could only go up there one time. And
No, no, there was no buffet option. No,
are you
no.
for real?
Buffet?
There was nothing on campus that was buffet.
No,
Nothing.
no.
Wow. He said that. He was like, so if somebody didn't want their burger, he said, hey man, I want your burger. So you have
Yeah,
to
That's what it
yeah.
was like.
You had what, a 15 or 20 meal plan,
That's right. 15 to 20. Either you ate Monday through Friday, and if
or
you
you
had
ate
20,
Monday
you
through.
got to go on the weekend.
Yeah,
And the problem with it was, if you go on the weekend, then it was like at 4 o'clock. So man, that's supposed to last me all the way to the next morning. Yeah,
wow. Yeah, we
yeah.
don't
You
have
see what
that.
you see what McGunn said? Buffet what?
yeah.
I mean, come on now. We didn't
No,
have that option.
no
Wow.
buffet. No,
That
you
is
you
crazy.
can. Your dad was right, and you can ask anybody that was there in our era or before, and they would tell you there was no buffet.
Now the
Anything.
buffet. Here's what the buffet was, Kennedy. So you will know. I was talking to you about this earlier about how we were pre-computer and some other stuff, and you laughed. But here's what the equivalent of a buffet was for us in Jackson State. If I'm not going to the calf because I've secured other means of eating, then I slide you my card and
Right,
you go eat my food.
right. That's how that worked. That's how that worked. And 'cause I remember sliding my card to Charles many days, and he slid his to me.
Yeah,
That's how it
That's
worked. And all that
crazy.
meant was, if mama, because daddy didn't see you, but if mama had sent you a care package, you were good
yeah,
for a few days. So you would slide the card.
yeah,
That's crazy. That's what, and my dad, he said, he was like, it would either ask somebody for their burger, or we had this real dude, he stayed in Dixon with us. He used to work for the calf. We be like, hey TK, you gonna bring back us some burgers? He's like, yeah, man, I got you. He'll bring back like a whole bunch of sandwiches and burgers back to the dorm. I said, wow, like
yeah.
that's
Why
crazy.
do you think
Or
people want to get work study in the cab?
yeah,
For
or
a
or
reason.
you could go upstairs in the union and try your hand with the chicken. I don't know what the food safety rating was back then.
Oh no, they didn't even do food safety ratings on the yard.
Yeah, I don't know about all that because I know somebody who worked in there who's on Facebook all the time, and she worked in there, and yeah, we were taking chances with our lives, but they used really really hot grease on that chicken.
Yeah. Well, hey Charles, what was your choice? You could have a chicken basket, a
hmm
fish plate,
Yeah,
or a burger, or a hot dog. That was it.
yeah, that
That was
was
the
it.
whole menu.
Wow. Well, never mind. I guess we have definitely improved over the years.
So you think?
All you can hope
Yeah.
for was a servant with a heavy hand that would give you a good portion.
Oh yeah, that's why uh you remember I used to tell you all the time about how you greet people and how you interact with people. That's a part of that because you needed to be on a first name basis with the people who held the spoons.
Right. That's where we learn how to network, and
Yeah.
that's why what you find is people that went to school with our era, we know each other. Are like we can see a face. Like, yeah, I remember them on campus because you talked to everybody because you had the network because you were gonna have to barter something. And
Oh
40
yeah.
years before you got out of there, you was gonna have to barter something.
Oh yeah. I mean, because I was one of the first residents of the honors dorm, right?
Hmm.
Y'all don't even have that. It's a parking lot now.
Right.
Oh yeah, Daddy talk about that all the time. They tore that down. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like the honors dorm is Dixon and still
Yeah.
there. But
But
what's that
what
Tiger World?
yeah, but so here's where I'm going with this. Not to flex on the living in the honors dorm, but I had an old steamer trunk, and my mom who's watching the show right now, she used to always send me spam.
What is that?
Spam, SPAM,
Yeah,
spam.
I know it's
It's
like
it's
food
it's a canned meat. It's an exotic luxury.
it's a
Listen, Kennedy. You see what Miss Irvin said? She said, "All you can hope for someone with a heavy hand who would give you a good portion." That was true. Listen, I hated spam. I hate spam to this day. And man, it was
I
amazing.
had
I got so hungry that I was over there getting that spam.
Look, Kennedy. Remember now, we don't have cell phones, so it's
can I get some spam, Charles?
yeah. Can I get some spam?
No, you
Yeah,
wouldn't even look. You didn't even have the energy to walk on the door. No, you go into the window. You
yeah,
sit on the first floor, so I can get this window. Hey
yeah.
man, open that window, just slide it through.
Wow, that's crazy.
Ramen noodles. Oh, I
That's
can.
what we live on
Man,
now.
how many dishes could we make with some ramen noodles? But but you like to see progress, and the reality is for us, um, I stayed on, the first year with the football team off campus apartments. You talking about your apartment, dude? Your apartment is the lap of luxury. See, you living in the lap
They
of luxury
stayed,
compared
Kennedy,
to what we
Kennedy.
did back in the
They
day.
stayed. They stayed in an apartment. You know where the soccer field is?
Hmm.
They stayed on apartments on the other side over there off of Hooker Street.
Yes.
Oh no,
It was like driving into the project.
because
Yeah.
we already past this gate. That is the project.
Oh no no no
No,
no no
no,
no
no,
no
no,
no.
no,
Where
no,
we
no. It's
stayed
it's an
was
apartment. It's an apartment complex over there on the other side that has a one way in, one way out.
yeah, it was bad. It was
And this was
bad.
on campus. This was considered on campus apartments.
It was just the football
It's
team that
just a
was over
football
there.
team.
Wow.
But they had to quickly get us back on campus because
Yeah, that was
Wait, can you get us back on campus?
yeah,
there
that
was
was
all
that
kind
was
of problems.
yeah, that was inviting too fast.
Yeah, yeah. But I will tell you, I'm happy that you guys have all that stuff, and I think there will be more. I think campus will be
Have
getting
you
more
seen
housing.
have Leslie? I don't mean to cut you off, but have you seen the options that they have in their union?
Oh my
No,
gosh.
no. Yeah, I have, and that's what I'm saying. I'm like, listen, let me tell you how I know about the union. So before COVID, Maddie, my daughter, would spend every summer on Jackson State campus for that
Yeah.
camp for a month. She raves about the camp. She said the best thing on campus is the camp. You go to, she can name the building and all that, and I'm like,
Really?
they have what? Yeah, they went to the no, and she's not talking about the cafeteria. She's
Oh,
talking
okay.
about
The
She's talking
well,
about
student,
we
the
call it the union, but
she's
whatever
talking about
y'all
the new
call it.
union. What
But
is
it's
what
Chick
what
Fil
is
A and all
the
this.
student center.
What is it?
student center?
Yeah,
Student center.
but that's what
We
she's talking about. She raised about the student center, and I'm like, y'all had what? Oh yeah, we could go back and get as much as we want. And
Dang, she was
I'm
lucky
like,
to camp. Yeah, I say we can't do that. We got
we
Tiger Bowl.
don't, we didn't have none of
Yeah,
that.
the cafeteria we do have like stir fry some days. We got tofu and stuff. I don't really do tofu. We got vegetarian options. Burgers, pizza, salad, soup. Yeah, desserts.
what?
Man, look
Yeah.
here. The best you could hope
Yeah,
for is that maybe you had some money on your what was that card called? The J card? Uh,
your ID.
yeah, your ID.
It didn't have a name.
Right. It was just ID.
It was
Hopefully you
just
had
the
some money on
ID.
it and you could go swipe it at the KFC on 80 and Lynch. You could swipe it at the Taco Bell if you had some money, which we didn't.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least I'm glad to know that our school has definitely improved from back then because I don't know if I would be able to survive. I
Oh,
don't.
get out of here. You
Nah, y'all not
survived.
built like that. Y'all not built like that. The
I'm
best,
honest.
the
I
best meal of the day back in the day was breakfast or Sunday
Oh my
lunch.
gosh. My dad has said the exact same thing. And then
Yep.
they get on to me. Did you get up and go to breakfast? I'm like, I stay in the Says. I don't want to get up there early to go to I'm sorry. I will make me some oatmeal right here.
Nah,
No.
best meal on campus in 1990 to 1994 was breakfast or Sunday, because Sunday they had fried chicken.
Right. And you know why? You know why those two things were the best? Because a lot of people didn't go to breakfast and they let you get what you want.
Yeah,
Then same thing on Sundays. A lot of people wasn't back yet if they went home or went wherever or they were out and about because it was so early that you get back and go fried chicken. And that's why you got to know. And to this day, Miss Singleton, Ira and Myra Singleton mama took good care of me because I got to know her real quick. And she's like, baby, you hungry today? I'm real hungry.
Real hungry. Real hungry. Or I tell you another workaround. It wasn't the football team because the football team caused a lot of havoc. It was the baseball team. If you went to eat with the baseball team, then you had a chance at getting a second plate.
Oh my gosh. That is crazy. Well, any last words while we end this show today, guys, since we've had a nice little trip down memory lane and now we know what were the best meals?
my
Nope.
last my last words are you have it really, really good. You are getting a world-class education, which we did too. But you have a world-class education and you have a brand new union with options.
I'm trying to. I don't want to hear any complaining.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I don't want to hear any complaining.
All right, Irvin Lock. Y'all have a safe weekend and stay masked up. Bye, y'all.